Well, here's some bizarre political news. It appears that CNN and the New York Times have turned on Biden. I think it's all started out with this tweet that he sent out saying that, well, under my leadership, we're getting the highest raise in Social Security benefits for 40 years. And, of course, he said, under my leadership, that means he had something to do with it. Well, Musk fact checked that and said, no, Richard Nixon, this is way back in 74 or something, signed into law a bill that connected Social Security checks with the cost of living. So another reason, the only reason we're getting this, I don't know if it's around 8 or 9%, we're going to be getting in January is because the inflation is 8 or 9%. It's probably actually more, but so that's where it comes from. Well, so Biden deleted this embarrassing tweet. But then both CNN and the New York Times did kind of a massive fact check on some of the things he'd been saying. And they corrected him a lot. No, this didn't happen here. This didn't happen. And, even something in his personal life that you would think you'd never forget. He was talking about the war in the Ukraine. And he said, Iraq by mistake. And then he said, no, the Ukraine, I just thought of that because that's where my son died. And it's like, your son died in Iraq? Your son died in the U.S. He wasn't in the military over there or a tourist over there when he died or anything. He wasn't even, he was within the continental United States. So that was a big goof. So there's these, fairly lengthy pieces where they're going over some of the things that Biden has said lately and saying, no, this isn't true. This is what happened. No, this isn't true. This is what happened. So why are CNN and the New York Times doing this? Well, of course, there could be multiple reasons, but now CNN supposedly has decided to be more balanced. In other words, they're going to have to try to get their ratings out of the cellar, right? They're going to try to be more moderate so they can attract conservatives that once watched the channel. I can remember, I'm old to remember when CNN came out and everybody's like, wow, a channel that's all news, cable news, we can turn on at any time, find out what's going on, basically the years that Trump was in a president, it was the anti-Trump station. It was all, the news was basically all that. There was no other news on it. It was horrible. And because, even if you agree with that, you get tired of hearing that. You want some other news. So even liberals were abandoning watching CNN. So their ratings took a big dive bomb. Parent company took over CNN. First thing they did is, again, CNN having, I don't know what they were thinking, they started the CNN Plus service, which they believed people would pay extra for content that they weren't watching when they could watch it free. They brought Wallace over from Fox News and stuff, and they had all this big plan. Well, it lasted a month, and then they closed it down, and now they finally fired the last few people that were involved in that, except Wallace. He got a big contract, so they got to do something with him. But so the CNN, you could think, well, okay, they're trying to appeal to, conservative or moderates by correcting Biden once in a while, so people will say, oh yeah, I can go to this channel and I can be sure that they're gonna report what the news is, and they won't be so like the anti-Trump show or the anti-Republican show or political correctness show. So that you might be able to see, but the New York Times did it too. and again raked him over the coals for all of these, blatantly false statements he had made. So there's something else going behind the scenes with Democrats. And what it is, I think, this is, there could be 100 reasons why this happened, but I think this is one of the contributing factors, is that most higher up liberals, in other words, liberals with power, realize that Biden is a disaster. He has no chance of winning in 2024. A sack of flour could run against him, and the sack of flour would win. That's how bad it is. I mean, he gets more and more forgetful. He makes more mistakes when he talks. He zones out and loses where he is. There's some videos of them kind of pointing to where he can step off the stage and where he can't. And just a general lack of mental acuity, and this idea too, and I don't know, I think Biden has always done this. He lies, and he sticks with the story even after people prove it's untrue. One of the long-term lies that he told, I forget now what it was, but he kept telling it over and over again, and they were like, something about someone, that he marched in the civil rights movement, and he didn't. he actually was in Congress talking in favor of segregation, equal but separate, right? But so making mistakes in his own history. He talked about knowing people that died before he was born. So just a general, I don't know, these lies sound like, if they were true, they'd make him more respectable because he knew these certain people and, whatever, converse with them and all these things. But, they proved with a bunch of these things that the time frame's wrong. Some things he said that happened before he was born, and some things happened after he was up. It's just a mess from his memory. So what's happening, I think, is, and I don't know why they're doing it right in front of the midterms, but it appears that there's a group of liberals that are smart enough to know, again, that he cannot win in 2024. It doesn't matter who he runs against. If it's Trump, if it's DeSantis, I don't know who else is on the forefront of running now, but if they ran, either of them ran, they'd clobber him, because he's just not, what he's putting forth is not positive. And so I think liberals are trying to impress upon him that he has to withdraw his intentions of running in 2024. At the beginning in his political campaign speeches, he said that he was going to be a transition president, whatever that meant. But it gave you the impression that he was going to be there for a short time and something better and newer was going to come on. But, he's president now. He doesn't want to leave that. I don't think many people who are president want to actually not run again. I mean, some of them know that they can't, or some of them run and aren't reelected, but, it's kind of nice to be the most powerful man in the world to some extent. So they don't want him. The liberals don't want him on the ticket. They don't want Kamala Harris either. She continually comes out and just embarrasses herself in the Democratic Party when she's places and she's talks. So it's like they don't want her either. So I think they're trying to discredit Biden enough so that he will get it in his head, or other Democrats will get it in their head, that they don't want him running again, so that they will have a chance of getting, another Democrat as president. I don't know who that could be. I'm not up on, who's up and coming in the Democratic Party, but supposedly within this framework of 2 years, they could try to, bring someone's name forward, you know, do all kinds of stories with him in the papers. You know what I mean? They can build him up. That's kind of what they did with Barack Obama, even. He was like someone that no one ever heard of. Uh, but they got to have a better candidate. They got to have a candidate that appears to be clear in the mind and knows what they stand for and what they don't stand for, and is somehow going to appeal to a lot of people. Now, it's funny because Democrats usually double down. When they do something wrong, they do it again, only worse. So it could be that they've actually decided this is wrong. So they, instead of getting, you know, an ultra liberal candidate, they might try to get one closer to, you know, a little closer to the right. It's not going to be even the center, but they're, you know, getting a candidate between, you know, here's center, here's Republicans over here, here's Democrats over here. Just having a candidate here is going to draw some people. This middle area, these people could vote for anyone maybe, and so they could draw more people and have a chance of winning. But with this massive inflation and everything, the open borders, I mean, what a mess. So I think they want him out. They want him at least, I don't know if they want him to resign, because that puts Kamala Harris in, who doesn't seem to be capable of even giving a speech about something. And she has this horrible laugh she does. And, you know, some people says she does it when she doesn't know what she's talking about, or when she isn't telling the truth, or whatever. But irregardless, she has a really bad impression. And when she goes places and talks, it's not a positive experience for the Democratic Party. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just they want to get Biden out of the way and get him at least demoralized to the point that he isn't going to run again, or realize that he can't run again, and start talking up a new candidate. You know, Biden, if coached sufficiently, Biden could come out and say, you know, I've decided, you know, the old family thing, spend more time with my family. This has been great being your president. I loved it. I would do it again. But I've decided I want to spend more time with my wife and children, or whatever. You know, one of those speeches when really it's about that his party doesn't really want him. And he should realize himself, or he did realize, you know, so many things are happening behind the screens. You know, he did tell people that he couldn't possibly win against Trump again. So, and we've had this other things that's happening. You know, all these kind of documents are coming out, emails and things, showing that he was riding Facebook and Twitter and these people to censor political thought. You know, like he said in this last speech, we need editors. Well, what's an editor? Well, in his mind, an editor is a person who knows the president's agenda and will fit stories, or only report stories that fit that agenda. In other words, if there's 100 other stories that are worth reporting and there's one that fits his agenda, they present that. That's his idea of an editor. Now, hopefully, CNN is going to become more moderate. They've canned a few of their people, or they put them in kind of dead time slots, going from, you know, nights to afternoons and things like that. I think they're hoping that some of these people will leave on their own accord. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. But there's a possibility that CNN could resurrect itself financially and become a viable network again. But it isn't now. So, like I say, they could be doing it. But I think what's really going on behind the scenes is Democrats know that they know that they know that Biden is just not there. And by 2024, he's going to go way further not there. So he's not a viable candidate to run against anyone in 2024. So they gotta knock him out somehow. They gotta convince him to not run. I think they were all surprised when he said he was going to run again, because the original thought with his presidency was, I'm an old guy and I'm going to do this for one term. I think that's the feeling people got from him. But now he is showing really significant problems when he's talking in public about facts, and seems to lose his train of thought and different things like that. It's funny, I'm just thinking he may never see this video, because this might be some editor who agrees with Biden will take this off. But I think the Democrats know they gotta find a much better candidate, and who that's going to be. If they really want to win, they can't get someone ultra liberal again. They got to get someone that's a little more towards the center, and we'll see what happens. But it is quite a big deal that CNN and the New York Times basically ran these pieces, correcting all his facts, fact checking, they're saying, and instead of saying, oh yes, this is kind of true, or no, this is true, just don't think about it, or they actually came out and said, oh no, Nixon did that. Nixon signed that into law about the Social Security. You didn't do it, and you know it, type of thing. So, and of course the big thing, but why did they do it before the midterms? That's the key. I don't understand. Maybe they thought they had to do it since Musk had brought it up or something. I don't know. But you would think, midterms are just a few days away. I would have thought they would postpone the story for a week, unless they think somehow, if your top guy that's president in your party, and you're painting him in an unfavorable light, does that motivate Democrats more or less to go to the polls and vote? My thinking would be it would be less, not more. But I don't know. If you're a Democrat, tell me. What do you think? If people actually believe Biden shouldn't run or can't run in 2024, is that going to make you more likely to vote next week, or less likely to vote next week, or it doesn't affect at all? But like I say, it just seems to me that if they're just swinging for the Democratic Party, playing in their team, that they would have waited one more week and not done this until everybody had voted. I mean, obviously Biden isn't on the ticket, but you still get, the Democratic Republic thing. And, people usually, and this is historically, presidents that are in power with one party, during the midterm, they lose seats and the other party gains, because right or wrong, people blame the Democrats or Republicans, depending on the party they're in, of what the president has done, and they kind of have done it too, and they vote the opposite party. So it'll be interesting. I have no idea what the polls will show, and the actual voting, and it's like, can we have the election denier thing? How crazy is this? Hillary is already out denying that the results of this midterm are going to be right, and of 2024. So she's already out there saying that these two elections are going to be stolen. And it's like, wait a second, you're censoring people online or getting social media to do it because they're denying some other election, and you're denying ones that haven't even happened yet, ones that the facts aren't even in. There's no data on. People haven't even voted, and you're already coming out and saying that you're going to deny that these elections are valid. I don't know. It's kind of weird. That Carrie Lane, what's her name? She was doing a thing when people asked her about election denial, because, Trump, supported her, and Trump's endorsement now means a lot. He's very powerful in the Republican Party still, and he unseated Cheney by endorsing the other Republican candidate in the primaries. And so they asked her about it, and she had the printouts with her, and she says, oh, here's 150 cases where Democrats denied the elections. And it's kind of like that it kind of ends the subject. You can't say much about it when someone's sitting right there with the facts and saying, well, Al Gore said this, Hillary Clinton said this, oh yeah, she said the elections were stolen, blah, blah, and all of this stuff over and over again. And it's like, I don't know. Politicians on both sides believe the American public has no memory. And maybe they're right for a bunch of Americans, but I can remember things, and I'm old. You would think young people, if they're, 30 at least, they have some history in politics and they can remember back those 10 years at least. And they know that politicians do a lot of lying. Tell me what you think. Bye.